he's constantly leaning on this leg, the shoulder's constantly being pushed back, the muscles are constantly being stretched, therefore developing. Now you take the opposite leg that is not reaching forward. Okay, here you have a foot that's back. Okay, it actually looks like it's getting smaller. It doesn't have the same elasticity because it's not being pressed onto the frog to create that development. So here you have that going on. Now when you look at the muscle development and thinking about how the horse is put together, you're looking at a neck muscle that is being stretched when that leg is back here versus the shoulder when the leg is being put forward. Okay? So you're dealing with all of this muscle mass on these bones. So here you have a horse that you had him turn out for 6 months. He's constantly eating in that direction. Now you've got that development going on. You throw your symmetrical saddle onto him and he's fussy. Or he goes leg. Or he goes shoulder. And you can't figure out why. Okay? And this is probably one of the biggest things that the vets are faced with. It's like he said, clinically he might be fine. He might have a muscle soreness, or he might, okay, so then you start looking at the horse and saying, okay, if he is constantly doing this, and again, has no collarbone, that muscle has to be holding something back or in place. When you look at these horses, and you start standing them up, you can actually see that they're imbalanced in their bodies. His shoulder's forward, his shoulder's back. So you have this asymmetrical frame that you're trying to ride. The questions that I've been asked is, okay, so why is my horse rougher going one direction than he is the other? Why does my saddle fall to one side? Why do I have to kickstart it every time I get to riding? Jump on that saddle, get it back in the middle. Next time I go around the circle, I'm like this. Okay? It's the fact that he's not developing symmetrical. And you can see a horse, when you look at his feet, whether or not he is symmetrical. If he's growing 2 even feet, his body is symmetrical. Because hoof grows according to pressure. If you have a horse that has a high heel, low heel, more comfortable going to that low heel side, simply because that's the extension leg. He's always extending it. Okay? Going the opposite direction feels like a post. And he's hitting like this, simply because he's never had that range of motion in his normal life. Okay? So as trainers, we take and we force him to go that direction. And here we are forcing. Now remembering that he has a big muscle and a flat muscle. Okay? We're putting a symmetrical saddle on top of him, and we're creating this compression. Now which one is going to compress more? The one with the big shoulder or the one with the little? Flat shoulder, because it has nothing to push that saddle away. So all of a sudden, that big muscle is pushing everything this direction. So now you have compression. Okay? If somebody was to take and hold your shoulders together, and then tell you, okay, reach, you're going to stop right about here. Because now you don't have that freedom of doing this. Okay? So this is the horse. We compress them, we cinch their saddles down, we ride them. Now they're getting fussy. They're getting sore, they start throwing their head, they start wiggling. They're trying to get you off of their shoulders so they can do exactly what you're asking them to do. But we're doing it to them. We're compressing. We're doing it. Okay, so then now we take a horse and we move the saddle back. Okay? Remembering that every time the horse strides forward, the shoulder rotates this direction. Okay? So we move the saddle back, and here we have it, behind the shoulder. Now, every time that horse strides forward, he's hitting that saddle. Okay? Pretty soon, he doesn't want to extend his leg. Starts getting front endy on it. Can't get my horse to rotate on his hind end. Why is that? Because I have his front end locked. Now I've got him like this. Okay? And I'm asking him, I'm pulling his head, and I'm driving. Every time I do this, where does my saddle go? It drives forward into his shoulders. So now we have a functional problem. The horse can't free. But yet, you look at him in the pasture and he's striding and running and bucking and doing everything great. It's because we have now restricted him. Okay? So at that point, we need to look at how a horse actually moves put your hand in here. You'll see where we have this cutout is right on their shoulder. It allows the shoulder to rotate, it stops compression, and it becomes more functional. Horses can now function the way that they're supposed to. We're not creating any resistance. And it takes away from that bigger shoulder. And that's one of the biggest things is that, well, is that shoulder going to get smaller or is this one going to get bigger? Well, it's up to the individual. If he's been this way for 14 years, how am I going to get this shoulder to come back 14 years? Because of the way that he's functioning. The only way I can do it is every time he goes to eat, jerk that leg forward. Make sure he does this. Okay? And he's not going to do it. But it's our job to say, okay, once I get you symmetrical, I'm going to pull on your leg. I'm going to get the stretching factor back into it. So now I've got at least range of motion. It's just like therapy. Everybody that got hurt has to go to therapy. And it helps them. It gets everything back into alignment.